Hello and welcome to this lecture on how to create a website using Google Sites. This is for the SM447 class. One of the first things you'll need to do is make sure you have a Gmail account, and hopefully because of our first week together you already have a Gmail account and have set that up properly. In order to get to the site where you're going to create a website, you're going to come to your browser and you're going to type in google.sites.com. Make that sites.google.com. And what you see here is something that I've already created, and these are a bunch of sites that have been done, but yours will be relatively blank if you haven't done one already. I did this one last week when we were having our class meeting. Let me scroll down here so you can see that. And in this demo I just created a site and then showed you how to do the major things that you're going to have to do for your course project. So in order to get started, one of the first things you want to do is you'll hit create, and you're going to have to give your site a name. So I'm going to call this SM447 demo. Get out of that. Demo 2. And notice here, this is what your URL is going to be. So if you wanted to go and view your site or tell anybody else about your site, this is the URL that they would have to go to. For now, just do a blank template. Do not, I repeat, do not use any of these other predefined templates for this course project. Otherwise, you'll lose significant points. We can select a theme, and that theme, minimize this down a little, shows you the different types of backgrounds you can have just by scrolling through there. If we scroll through there, we can see we have quite a few. And you can change these later on after you've decided you might want a different theme, or you want to revert back to a previous one. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one for you at this point, just so you see what it looks like. And then it's going to say, you need to say you're not a robot. I'm going to make my browser window a little smaller. And hopefully you can see that now. Scroll up a little more. So now your screen should see what I see. So here's this CAPTCHA area that I selected. You can also click on more options and give the site a description. So we might say it's a demonstration for SM447. And we'll shrink that down. We'll scroll up. We'll close the select theme. So now we're left with this. And now we can create the site. So hit create. May take it a second or two. you'll see that we have this site created. Okay, so looks like a normal website. It actually names the home page home. We can delete that. Notice here it gives the title of our site right here, whatever we give it a name, and here is the URL. This is what you're going to have to highlight and copy and send to me as part of your one-page write-up. Alright, when we're in a page and we want to make changes, we load up the site and we go to edit. Once we're in edit, you can see that a normal menu opens up like a word processor. So here we might want to change this to today's events, and that's just a title. And then what we got here is where we can actually put our content, or if we're developing our page. So maybe I want to say Sam's vegetables. Okay, and if I want that to be bold, I can come up here and you can see there's a bold tag, and it works just like a word processor. I highlight what I want to apply an attribute to, and then I click on the attribute. Now here it's left justified. If I want it centered, I can do that. If I want to change the size of the font, I can do that, and you see what we have. I can even change the color of the font. So if I come up here and change that, now it's red. I can actually change the background of where this text is. So you can see what that actually did to our screen. Now every time I do something positive or something I don't want to reinvent again, if the machine were to cut off, I'll come over here and hit save. When you save, it takes you out of edit mode and puts you back into what you would normally see on the screen. I typically will do something like this. I'll hit Control C to copy what I've just highlighted, and then I'll open up another browser. Here I'm going to open up Firefox. I may have to shrink it down a little bit so it fits in our window. And I'll just enter that same thing, Control V for paste. I'll hit enter. And you can see that's what anybody in the world would see as our page. If I go back to Chrome where I was working, and I'll go back to edit mode, then I want to show you some other things that you can do while you're in edit mode. You can insert images, you can insert hyperlinks, and there's another way to do that. I'll show you how to do that. You could do a table of contents and so on. You could also do some special Google apps that are created that you could also insert. Links to, say, Google Drive if you wanted to share this only with people that have a Google account. But for now, we'll just leave that alone. So I hit enter. Notice it's still staying red and it's still staying centered. So if I want it to be left justified, I'll do that. Here I'll go back to black text. It's got a white background, which is perfectly fine. And so maybe I want to insert a list here, or a bulleted list. Notice the difference. I'll ask you to have a numbered list on one page and then a bulleted list on another. If we do bulleted lists or numbered lists, you'll see that it comes up with a number here at the very beginning, and I could type in and say, we'll just put in Auburn. And what I've done here is I've listed places where you might go and get vegetables. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to remove my font and not make it so big, and maybe go back to a 12 point. And maybe right above this, I'll set that back down to 16 point. I'll left justify it. And the text will make black again. Places to find fresh produce. Okay. So maybe we want to set that to a little smaller than our main title here. So here I've got, maybe I also want this to be bold. So it is. Stayed bold because it was still related to this one up here. Maybe I want to change that to a different kind of background. Maybe I don't want any background. But here you're actually creating some headlines, and you could also be consistent from page to page if you wanted to use similar fonts, or if you highlight this and you go over here and you come to format, and you could use a heading 2 or heading 3 or heading 4. So in terms of hypertext markup language, which is this is all written in, these will give you a consistent font from page to page and area to area within your page. Okay, and if you want something subscripted where they have a number above the text or below, you can actually do that, and you just type it in and you get it. You can also do your alignment using this menu, a format menu as well. Alright, so I've typed in some values, but now let's say I want to make the value a link. So maybe I want to go to WKU, and I'll come up here and hit this link value. Now a site page means another page within your website. So if I had a bunch of pages and I wanted the user to go to another page within my website, I would put the name of that page here. If I want to take them to another web address, I would put it here. So here I do wku.edu, and we'll put in the www here, and I'll hit OK. Okay, then I'll click off of that and I'll hit save. So that's what it should look like. Now if I go over here to my Firefox browser, notice that it doesn't have those values in there. The reason being is because I've saved it, this browser hasn't been refreshed. So you always have to do a refresh if you're developing this way, using multiple browsers to view it. So I hit refresh and now the value comes up. Notice at the top here we have a tab for our website. If I hit or click on this, it actually takes me to Western Site, but it used up that same tab. And so the problem there is that if you create a website and you don't leave your current website open, the user may get confused or lost and never find their way back to your website. So a better thing to do is to say open in a new browser when you create this. So I'm not going to create a fresh one here, but I'm going to be in edit mode. If I click on that, then I want to change, so it opens up that same dialog box where we were, and notice that down here at the bottom it says open this link in a new window. So I'll click OK, I'll hit save, go back to Firefox, I'll hit the back button, I'll hit refresh, and now when I click, notice what happens to this tab up here. It opens up in a new tab and I see my old tab. So that's typically what you will want to have happen. Alright, so that's how you can get a new link in there. So I'm going to go back to Chrome where I was editing. And now I might want to insert some pictures of fruits or something and links with those. I'm going to hit enter here. I enter a couple times and notice how it makes my page a little longer. In order to insert an image, we're going to have the image on our local machine, and then we upload it to this server. Once we have it on the server, then we can insert that image. So let's go out here and find a server or a picture of an image. So I might type in WKU farm. See what comes up. So here's Western's farm. Got a picture of a tractor. Not really showing me. Let's do the vineyard. So there's a picture of some grapes. Maybe we'd like that picture on our website. Now, when you go and get a picture or an image from another website, you need to make sure that you have permission to do so, and you need to give that website credit. So what I'm showing you is how to get an image, but you need to make sure you're not taking images that are copyrighted or will get you in trouble. So in order to avoid that, sometimes you can go and find images that are free to download, and I would suggest you probably do that. Now, with Western, you can actually go here and look for, say, logos. And Western has a site of downloadable logos that you can insert into your website. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. If I do a right click on this image, I can do Save Image As, and I've already got it here. It's the cupola one, so I'm going to save it as that. I hit Save. We'll just replace it, but you may not. You need to also be careful about when you do a Save Image As, you know where you're saving it. So on mine, I'm saving it in Computers and the Downloads folder. And the reason why you want to be careful about that is that when you're putting that into your website, you need to know where the image is when you're uploading. So let's say I want to put it here, and I'm going to say Insert Image. So now it says you need to add an image. So I need to upload this image that I just saved to my local machine to the server. Here's the name of it. I'll hit Open. So it loads it up. And I can also do a web address URL here. And this is how you make the image linkable. So back when the web was first developing and people used, say, buttons on their web pages to mimic a button, all it really was an image that they then assigned a URL to or a link to. So here we might say we'll link that to, let's link it to the farm one. So what was that URL again? I have to go back out here and look for it. We're at the vineyards. So here's that link. So now I'll come back over here. I'll say this is the link, that if the person clicks on that, that's where it'll take them. Now, the alternate text is something you always want to fill in, and it has to do with disabilities when people use browsers that they can't really see the image, and then they have something that reads it to them so they'll know what they're actually seeing on the screen. So we might say WKU logo that goes to the WKU farm. I wouldn't even say goes to, I would just say links. Once we have that, got that, and I may have gotten ahead of myself. So I'm going to leave it as an uploaded image here, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to do that still, or make it linkable. Okay, so now look, it makes it huge in there, and so you may want to go with the small version. Go with medium, we can go with large, and we can say where do you want it to be on the screen, left justified, centered or right justified, and so on. Do we want text to wrap around it or no text? So we might have text, and we can move it where we want it. Okay, so if I click on it again, I bring up that dialog. Now I'm going to hit change, and here we're going to say, okay, what's the web address that we want this to link to? If I do this, it's going to link to itself. So I don't want it to link to itself. I want it to actually take me somewhere. So I hit paste. It looks like I got too many H's there. So that's a good URL. And I'll have open link in new window. I'll hit OK. Then I'll save this. Alright. So far we've gotten text that we've been able to change colors on, bold. We can do italicize if we want. We've got a header here. We've got a numbered list. I showed you how to do a bulleted list. And now we have a link. Notice that when I hover over this link, the link should come up here. So if I click on that, it takes me to that URL I put in. So it actually took me to the wku.edu farm and that vineyard.php page. And that's how you make links to different places. So I'll ask you to do the same thing. What I've just shown you, this is also a graphical link. So it's a graphics that it's a link that I can go to and choose and have a URL that takes me to a different site. Now, what happens if I want to add a page? All I have to do is come here and I can hit create page, name of page, we'll call it Sam's Best, make it a web page. We'll put the page under today's events and you'll see what that does. The best thing you can do is just experiment with doing different things. You can always go back and delete things and then come in there and see how they're set up again. So I'll hit create. And so you'll see here's today's best. That's the page we were working on. Here's Sam's Best. Today's events rather than Sam's Best. And we go from there. If we want to edit this page, we might put in things that are great about Sam's veggies. Here I'll do a bulleted list. No pesticides, organic fertilizers, and then what else might be useful? Pure artesian water. That's all that's used. So you can see how we get the bulleted lists in there. You've seen how we've done font colors, font size, and so on. So again, take some time, experiment, look and see what's available to you. We're going to describe the format menu. We're not going to do a table. Something that might be useful to you is a layout. Sometimes you might have a layout where you have two columns like this. So you actually have a header that would be on every page, and then a footer that's on every page. Usually that's text that are links again. And then you have two columns here. Now you can also change that to something else. If you want three columns, then you should be able to make these smaller or wider, but you may have to know HTML to do that. Again, you can just experiment with things. You have a right sidebar. Sometimes people put advertising over here and so on. Now I'm going to stay on this page. I'm going to save this, and then I can go to this other page. But notice that when I went to the other page, you may not be able to see it here. Let's go back to edit. We'll just put ads right here. And links. So now when I hit save, and we look at that, you can see where that's going to appear on the screen. But you don't have that layout over here. So if I go to edit, that's still a single column page. So you can have different page layouts for each page you have. I would suggest you keep them the same from page to page. The last thing I want to show you is that when you are in the basic web page for sites.google.com, you also have the ability to do more changing of things. I just wanted to show you that. So if we wanted to manage the site, we could come over here and we could see things like themes and colors. And this isn't going to give you as big a listing as what we first saw when we created it, but I wanted to show you where you can go back in there and change things. So if I wanted to go with maybe parchment, I could do that. You can see, gives you a preview of what that would look like. And we can leave it like that. Now let's change something. We go with smoke. Now I can also change the background if I wanted to do a different background color or text or whatever. So these are like global changes that you could do. This sharing and permissions, if I click on that, let's stay on this page and save what we have. Okay, if I go to sharing and permissions now, you'll see that currently this is public, it's on the web, anybody can see this. Maybe you have a small group and you just want to share it with the people who have Google accounts, and they're the only ones that want to see that. So you can actually make those changes. Or you maybe just want to send a link to anybody. They can't just find it. They have to click on a link to get to it. Or you can specify specific people, which is what I was talking about earlier. Just make sure you save it if you make any changes. Now I'm just touching on the very basics of website design and what you can do with Google Sites. You can actually create scripts that will search for different things and bring up stuff out of a database or save things to a database. There's all kinds of things you can do. You just need to do a Google search and find examples of the different scripts that go with their sites. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. So I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to go back to my main site. So I'll click here. And so now I'm back to the main site. But notice how it has changed that background for me. If I go on to the second page here, you see how that's changed as well. And so I hope you've enjoyed this little demo and it will help you fulfill your course project. You'll still need to think about your layout, and what images you want and what content in terms of text do you want on your pages. But I think this will give you a really good start.